how to go from this to this.
Wait, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, groove. Baby girl, watch how you move. I got them vests on my shoes. I pop up, put it, I lose. Wait, speed it up. Look at the diamonds, they eat it up. Got me two, stop, eat it up. They thinking I'm wife and deleting them. Oh wait.
Starting off, we have the field of view, which I am going to show you what 60 field of view gameplay looks like really quick, just to show you the difference. As you can see, it's super zoomed in, and when you scope in, you basically cannot see any difference. I typically play with 120 field of view, and I'll show you what that looks like right here. You can see you move, or it looks like you move a lot faster, and the camera movement's a lot more smooth, and you just get a wider field of vision. Next is the invert y-axis, which when enabled, when you move your mouse up, you look down, and when you move your mouse down, you look up. It just inverts the up and down on your mouse, and it makes it really hard to play with. I don't know why anyone would ever want to play with this, so obviously I recommend just having that off. Next is going to be the dynamic stance, which I will show you what dynamic stance off looks like right here. As you can see, when I crouch and when I go prone, the gun does not move. The gun stays stable and it does not like shift in any way. It just stays looking pointed in the same direction. Now with dynamic stance on, you can see as I crouch and I'm prone, the gun moves. It kind of moves it over to the left a little bit and then moves it down. Next is angular input, and angular input's an interesting thing. As you can see, when I aim with this pistol, I cannot reach farther than looking straight up. But then when I aim down sights with a scoped weapon, I can keep moving my mouse up and up and up and up and up, and I will eventually look behind me, essentially looking past 90 degrees upwards. So you can see I look at this building, I turn around, and then I continually move my mouse up to look up, and then I can see the building, which is behind my character model. And this is really confusing. It's also not very useful for any weapons because it only happens with black scope weapons, so I just recommend not having it on. Next setting is the damage numbers, and as you can see here, as I am killing people, there are no kind of damage. There's no numbers that are appearing as I am doing damage to people. But if I turn this on and I get a kill, you'll be able to see numbers appear above their head showing the damage you did, like that 104 right there. That's the amount of damage that I did with that shot, and I recommend having the damage numbers on because it's really nice just to have when you are going for trick shots or when you're like shooting people from a long range. It's nice to see if you hit people and like how much you hit them for, and just it's overall useful, so I would recommend having it on. Now this is what it looks like when you set the damage number font to the max, which is 50. It's obviously very big, very distracting, so I don't recommend having it this high. I just recommend keeping it at the default 20. Next setting is the stamina movement, and as you can see in the bottom of my screen, there's a little bar that moves every time I slide, crouch, or I dolphin dive. It basically just gives you kind of an indicator of what your stamina is looking like, and I don't know why you would ever want this on, because like you kind of just get a feel for the game and how the stamina works anyway. And as you can see, I have to reach a certain amount of stamina to dolphin dive, so I just recommend having it off. It's kind of unnecessary. Next is the sensitivity. With your mouse sensitivity, obviously it's just going to be whatever you want. I can set it to the lowest possible, and as you can see, I'm literally swiping my mouse left to right as far as I can on my mouse pad, and I'm moving nothing. So I recommend just keeping that at a reasonable mouse sensitivity, whatever feels most comfortable for you. The more important setting is the aim sensitivity, because the aim sensitivity is going to determine how fast or slow you can move your mouse when you're aimed down sights. So if I have it set to 0.5, then it's going to move 0.5 my regular sensitivity when I'm aimed down sights. Most people have this at a lower setting, lower than their actual sensitivity. I prefer to have it higher. That is not recommended. I recommend keeping it 0.8 or something. Next setting is the double tap to sprint, and best way to describe this is it's kind of like Minecraft, where if you double tap W, you will toggle your sprint on, and then it will allow you to sprint just by holding W. I keep this off. You can decide if you want it on or not. All these settings are just controller settings, you know, the look sensitivity, how fast it moves when you're using a controller, the dead zone. None of these are really important because I recommend you play with keyboard or mouse, and that's what most people are playing with. So I'm not going to show you what any of these settings do. I'm just going to, yeah, you can change those if you want. These next settings at the MISC settings are the high 5.3p animation time dedication and the low 5.3p animation time dedication. I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what all of these do. I just assume that it's the amount of time that it dedicates to animations, like it says, and the options are such a minuscule difference that I don't recommend really changing them, because like the highest it can go is 6 milliseconds, as you can see. The lowest it can go is like 1. I don't think it's going to make a difference if you change it or not, so I just recommend keeping it at defaults. Same with return to menu on despawn, that doesn't do much. But now I'm going to show you what the melee hitbox debug menu shows. So you can see I'm running around knifing. It doesn't do anything, just regular gameplay as you would see, just knifing around. Now if I turn the show melee hitbox on, as you can see when I pull out my knife and I stab, it shows the hitbox of where I'm stabbing. So it works for both animations. It just shows where the knife is hitting, exactly where it's going, and it leaves this kind of cool red trail. Now if I turn that on, you can see when I hit somebody, it shows the green hitbox, the exact point where it hit it. I like keeping it on. I just think it looks cool. You can decide whatever you want. Now if you show bullet, I think it's called bullet trajectory settings or something, you can see these yellow trails where I shot, and then at the very end it shows all the penetration and it shows where the bullet ends, where it hits. I don't keep the bullet debug on, it just takes up too much performance. I do keep the melee hitboxes on just because I think it looks cool, but it will take a hit to performance, so keep that in mind if you want to turn it on. Okay, now we've got the display settings. Number one setting is the toggle ragdolls, and obviously most people have this on. It's just going to show you ragdolls. Like if you kill somebody, there's going to be a ragdoll there. Like you can see there's the friendly and the enemy hitbox, or the ragdoll right there. And then if you turn the fun factor up, that's going to multiply how far the person flies back when you kill them. Like as you can see, as I kill this person, they kind of go flying back. It scales with damage, so the higher fun factor, the farther people are just going to fly around when you shoot them. But I recommend keeping ragdolls off because it improves performance, and it also makes it easier to see people if they're kind of hiding in the ragdolls, like if they're prone or they're doing whatever. It just makes it easier to see, so I recommend turning this off for performance. Next we have toggle bullet holes. The bullet holes is going to show you basically as you shoot, there's going to be holes in whatever you shoot. It's going to show for penetration as well. And as you can see, if I shoot through this wall, it'll show a bullet hole in the wall and then also in the floor. I recommend having it on just because it kind of looks nice. It shows you where bullets are coming from. It will give you a little performance boost if you turn it off, but I just have it on, so I would recommend having it on. Next is going to show the Roblox animations and what that means, or sorry, Roblox particle effects. And the particle effects are just the smoke, like weird smoke thing when you shoot through a wall. I recommend having it off because it takes a huge hit to performance and just makes visibility harder in general. Now next is the first person bullet casings, and as you can see as I shoot this gun, little bullet casings go off. If you turn it off, obviously when you shoot a shot, there's not going to be any bullet casing that flies out of the gun. They're not going to be on the ground. It is going to affect performance, so if you want max performance, turn it off, but I think it looks cool, so I keep it on. Now, all of these HUD settings, obviously, they're going to affect your heads-up display, the HUD. Toggle chat, obvious what that does. I have my chat off. You can decide whether you want yours or off. I'm just going to show you what these next couple of things look when they're on and off. Obviously, keep most of these on, but this is just what it looks like with the ammo HUD off. So you can see in the bottom right, I can't see my ammo. I can't see how many grenades I have. I can't see my health. So I don't know why you'd ever turn that off. Just keep it on, like you need to know those things. Same thing for the name tags and the kill feed. As you can see in the top left, there's no kill feed, and then there are no name tags above the player's heads. So the only way to determine if there's an enemy is the different color of their player model. I just think that's too difficult. I like having the name tags. It makes it easier to kind of tell who's who. It makes it easier to see enemies, easier to see friendlies, and just makes the game easier. So keep those on unless you really want them off. Few settings are the radar settings and the round HUD. just in the bottom left, you can't see the game time, you can't see your radar, obviously, you can't see what game mode it is. It just makes it harder to tell. Radar is actually very useful, so I just recommend keeping it on. Now for the crosshairs, as you can see as I'm running around and aiming down sights, there's those 4 little crosshairs that kind of show you the spread of where I would shoot. I personally have these off because I think they make it harder to play, but if you want those on, you can keep them on. It doesn't really affect performance. Now obviously for hit markers and vote kick pop-up, you can decide if you want that on or off. I just prefer to keep it on. Hit markers are nice because it shows you when you actually hit somebody. Then streamer mode, as you can see, there's everyone's names in the leaderboard as I pull it up. And then if I go and turn streamer mode on, it's going to anonymize all the players' names. So it just says player, then a random number. So you can turn this on if you want, if you're getting like annoyed by other people's names, or like you're obviously streaming and you don't want people to know. I just keep it off because there's no real point. I just like seeing people's names, but do what you wish. Next are the rendering settings, and these are actually very big for performance, so you should use the recommended settings. Obviously, toggle day and night, you can see it makes the menu light, it turns day and night cycle on. It's really gonna affect how you kind of see the game, and the day and night cycle is actually client-sided, so different people are going to see different days and nights. So I recommend turning it off just for better performance and so that you get max visibility. And this is the game with the Roblox shaders on. The Roblox shaders obviously make the game look nicer, but I prefer to just keep them off just because it does affect performance and it affects visibility as well. Now, these are the smoke effects. As you can see, as you're shooting, the gun has a little smoke. It does affect performance and it makes it kind of harder to see, so I recommend turning it off, but keep the muzzle flashes on just so that the gun looks like it's shooting. Now, the see tracers through optics is a little tricky. It's with the new optic update. As you can see, as I look through an optic over my tracers, I can't see them, but then when I turn the setting on and I shoot, you can see my tracers through the optic. So that's all it does. It doesn't really affect performance. I recommend keeping it on. Now for the camo skins, as you can see, I have a camo on my skin. I turn the first person camo skin off. You can't see the skin. And I turn it back on, and then you're able to see it in the game. It's pretty simple. I recommend keeping third-person camos off because it really does affect performance, and it can be distracting if people have neon guns. For the lobby weapon models, I would turn this off because the guns stay loaded in regardless if you're actually looking at the menu or not, and they do take like a 10 FPS hit to performance. So I just recommend keeping them off. You don't really need to see the guns in the main menu. Like, it's not really useful for anything. So yeah. And now next for the scaling settings, obviously these are just going to determine how big or how small the different little GUI menus are. I have my rounded radar at 0.85, I have my leaderboard at 0.8, and then my player status at 0.85. Obviously you turn up, these things are going to get bigger, you turn them down, they're going to get smaller. I like some of the things smaller, it just kind of distracts me less, but I recommend having most of these to the default settings if you don't have a preference, just because all the things there are scaled pretty well. Like the developers have done a pretty good job of scaling things to look well on any monitor. So change them if you want. Keeping them defaults recommended just because it won't mess with anything, and that's all that's really important for scaling settings. They don't affect performance at all. Okay, finally we are at keyboard settings or keybinds. These are newly added for some new keybinds. As you can see, all of these are kind of default. I recommend keeping most of these at default. I'm just going to show you what some of the lesser known ones do. For example, they have the jump, the vault, and the jump no vault buttons. Default is just having space be jump and then nothing set to the vault and the no vault. And I will show you what it would look like if you had these different keybinds. So as I go to space, the jump button will vault if you go near objects and then just jump if you're not near any objects. So for example, if I run over this object, I vault over it, as you can see. But if I had the jump and the vault button separate, if I jumped, I would jump on top of the object, and I hit the vault button, I would only vault. I just recommend keeping jump at space. It's not really ever been an issue unless you have some crazy movement tech you want to practice, but as far as that's concerned, it's not really important. Now for the raise stance and lower stance, obviously that's just going to be crouching, going prone, uncrouching, and going prone, all that kind of stuff. And then with the dolphin dive. If you hit Z, you'll be able to do a dive if you sprint and then hit the button. So if you sprint, jump, hit the button, you can do the super jumps. You can just jump really high. You can see it actually does damage if I jump off from a barely raised object. And now for the slide and slide control. Obviously sliding, just you hit C or you hit control as you're running and it will allow you to slide. Very useful, most people do it, it helps with movement. But the slide control, as you can see, as I move left and right and I hold left shift, it moves where my slide is instead of my slide continuing with the same momentum that it used to have. That's really all it does. I recommend keeping them all default, they don't do anything. Same things for these weapon actions. Just keep them default. Most of the time you won't need to change them unless you want small little tweaks, but you'll figure that out as you play the game. For this, for the throw grenade toggle, it's a very odd setting. I don't know why you would ever want it on, but as you can see, if I press the button, it unpins the grenade, it primes it, and then it holds onto the grenade until you press the button again. So I set mine to K. If I press K, pulls out the grenade. I press K again, it throws it. It will not throw the grenade if you click your shoot button or your aim button. So keep that in mind. Just keep it off. I honestly would not use it. It just is pretty useless. The interact action is going to be like picking up a gun or switching firing modes. It's not really useful. There is also the spot. When you hit E, that's the default keybind. You hit E, you're going to spot people, as you can see, and that allows them to show up on the radar and on just in the game with a red dot over their head for a small amount of time. It's very useful for sniping and everything. That's all I'd really use it for. Keep that default. The unlock mouse, if you really want to know, you hit M and then it just unlocks your mouse to click things. Make it in the way of your gameplay. You can turn this off if you want, but yeah, that's all. Thank you for watching this ultimate settings guide. If you guys have any suggestions for more things I should cover or more tips I can give, let me know. Put them in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Thank you for watching, and yeah, bye.